Now you've seen how you can create a store procedure in SQL Server. The next thing we can do, we can open Visual Studio, and I have set up a SQL Server R report. So I'm going to open that. What I got here is I went in and I created a couple of shared resources. So I have this data source that I created and give it a name, and I'm pointing it to my SQL 2019 instance, and the initial catalog I want to use is this testDB. Then I went in and I created a new data set like so, and you fill in this information. And the way you can do it is you can select store procedure by choosing the right data source that I know is active. Choose store procedure, cap M, and then I can go into my query designer. I can run it, and it's loading, and it's coming back like this, and it has this data in it. Okay, so now I got some data returned, and I can say refresh fields. And when I look at my fields collection now, you can see here's all the fields that's being returned from that stored procedure. I'm going to just go ahead and create a new data set. So I'm going to go in here, create a new data set, and I'm going to use data source 3. I want to point to that store procedure we just looked at, this cap M, and I want to run it just to test it. And it's coming back fine. Okay. And then I want to refresh the fields. And then I want to look at the fields. And here's the fields. So say okay. So now I got a shared data set here. So the next thing I need to do is to just save everything. Okay. So I save it. And then in my report data tab, when I look under these data sets, there's data set 1, 2, and 3, but the 4 is not in there. So I need to add it in here. So I'm going to go add the data set, choose number 4, and say okay. So now number 4 is showing up with all these columns in it. So I'm going to go ahead and create this report from scratch. So we went through and we did the data set 4. We pointed to this store procedure, and we loaded the fields that looks like these fields. So now we got the fields in this data set. And what I want to do now is I want to just create a new report. So I'm going to add new report, and that will trigger it to load in this wizard. So I'm going to choose data source 3, and I'm going to say next. And the query builder, put that here and run it. And now it produces this. So I'm going to say next. And tabular is fine. And then I want to just grab all of these guys and put them in a details section like this. I'm going to say next. And we can just call this report 1. That's fine. I will say finish. So now you can see we have built this report, and when we open it up, you can see it looks like this. The advantage of doing it this way is that you're loading all these fields at one shot, but it looks kind of a little boring, but it has everything in there. But I can run it now, and in the preview mode, and it should go against that store procedure and load it. And there it is. And now you got data in here. So now the next step obviously will be to spiff it up and make it look prettier. How you can display and chart from using the R services, how you can display it in, how you can generate one, and how you can actually display it in a SQL Server report. So I have a very simple one here, but the technique should be the same for all of them. So I have this store procedure I created, and it's just a box plot. So let's just open this so you can see what it looks like. And the procedure is just this. This is the name. And all it does is to execute an R script. And the script basically says, create an image file, set it equal to the function temp file. So this is the key here. Image file, then use JPEG format, set the file name equal to that image file here that you're going to be storing in this temp area, wherever that is being put. Make it of size 400 by 400. Now you can change this, obviously. And we're just grabbing some basic R data that comes with R. There's something called MT cars. And all we want to do is create a little data set here and use two of the columns, and then create a basic box plot with these two columns in them. And it's whatever else information for that particular plot. It's not important what it is. It's just that this is a plot, okay? And then we use this dev off function that kind of turns off the charting itself. So you put basically the image file and the type of image before you create the image, and then you just do a dev off when you're done. And then you use this specific syntax here called, you create a data frame. The data is going to be read binary, and the file is going to be that image file we created up here. And there's some specific parameters here that SQL Server suggested you use. RB, what is equal to raw, and this N1E6. So if you set it up like this, it will create a bytecode or binary outcome, and you can get a column name out of this by creating a column name like plotty and set it equal to var binary max. Var binary max. And you create a with result set. So that's the stored procedure you're going to need. So next, I want to show you how you can create and plot a chart inside the reporting services. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Visual Studio, where I already created a reporting project, as you can see here. It has one data source, which is pointing to my 2019 instance, SQL Server 2019, and it points to this database here. And that's called data source 3. And there's also a data set I created, and it points to that data source 3. And I'm selecting a stored procedure. And the name of the stored procedure I'm choosing is that box plot we just looked at. And you have it here, and that's really all we need to do here. You could go and do Query Designer and just run this thing, and it's executing, and it comes back as a binary with that header plotty, as you can see up here. Then you can say OK. Then you can also refresh the fields, go up to fields here, and you can see there's that plotty field that we were looking for. Now, the next thing you need to do is, well, we want to save it first. You want to go to this report data under the data sets, and you want to choose, let me get rid of this. You want to add a new data set, and data set 2 is the only one available. It's called data set 1 here for whatever reason, but I'm going to change it to 2. And you can also check the fields, and there's those plotty fields. Okay, so now we got the data sets within the report data. And next thing I want to do, go in here to report data, and I'm just going to insert a list object, make it a little bigger, like such. Just drag it out and click, and then up here I right click and I say Tablix properties, and I choose the data set 2. Okay. Next thing I need to do is insert one more object, an image object, and I want to set the image source to be database. I want to make sure it's of JPEG format because that's what we're producing, and I want to select the data sets, data set 2, first plotty, and I double click on that, and it puts it in to this expression here. Now I can say OK and OK, and make the picture, the image a little bigger, and drag it out a little more. Okay. Now what I can do is save it and see if we actually get something coming back. And sure enough, here you see, here's that box plot that came back from SQL Server. So that's how you can load a chart inside a SQL Server report.